Sup guys, and welcome back to Doctor Who Discussions. We are actually on time this year.
Woohoo!
My name is Charlie.
And my name is Russell.
And today we're going to be discussing The Woman Who Fell to Earth. All hail Salad Guy! All hail Salad Guy! All hail Salad Guy! All hail the big talking bird! A person
the guy who throws kebabs at aliens.
Yeah, that. He was cool.
He was the MVP of this episode.
And this episode was great. Jumping right in, this episode was great.
Yeah! Shall we just get Jodie out of the way first?
Jodie is fantastic.
Jodie's great.
I love her.
I immediately after I saw the episode, I went on Facebook and I saw people were already cheering her on, and this is I think the effect Jodie's had a really good effect on revitalizing the show because people are suddenly talking about it again.
Yeah, we don't want to say right off the bat that this is going to be a great era after the first episode because we did that with Moffat and we have plenty of criticisms about his era.
Yeah,
but,
and I did, and admittedly the same with Russell T Davies, and we've still got the same amount of criticisms.
Yeah, and not to have a go at Peter Capaldi because we both love Capaldi so much. I think we made that very clear in the last couple of episodes.
He was very poorly utilised.
But Chibnall and Whittaker, possibly partially because of her being the first female Doctor, but also because this episode was so good, have really very quickly brought Doctor Who back into being a big cultural icon.
And I think
a single episode.
Yeah, these are the highest viewing figures since the Tennant era.
And people are talking about it, and the two of us are having discussions about Doctor Who with people other than each other, and that's very new.
I was just saying to you, at work, people are actually talking about it.
Same. At work, people are talking to me about it.
Maybe it's because I started a new job this year, but at my last job, when I was there from pretty much the beginning to the end of the Capaldi era, and nobody talked about it. Nobody was really interested in it. But here, I've had people who don't normally watch Doctor Who come up to me and say, "Oh yeah, did you see Doctor Who? I saw it. It was really good." It's sort of revitalised it, and I don't know whether that's maybe because a lot of people were just curious to see how this turned out, but either way, it's had a really positive reception.
And I'm not surprised it had a really positive reception. Words. Because Jodie Whittaker was great.
Yeah,
she reminds me of somewhere between Paul McGann and David Tennant, and they're two of my favourite Doctors. So
yeah, Tennant seems to be the main comparison for people. I sort of went with somewhere between 10 and 11. If they cut down David Tennant's overacting a bit, hey, Time Reaver! And cut out 50% of Matt Smith's babble. Because, come on guys, he went on.
He did.
He took forever to say nothing.
I do compare her to 8 because her hilariously reckless endangerment of herself just casually, constantly, very much reminds me of 8.
And also the fact, she... the scene where she tells... her friends, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry you had to see this dead body. That's very Eighth Doctor.
That is.
Very, it's got nothing to do with her, but it's I'm really sorry you had to see this. This is obscene.
We'll see, we'll probably say this for every new Doctor going forward, but I really like how she's a new and interesting character, but she also clearly pays homage to previous actors to play the Doctor.
I wasn't watching... It didn't feel like I was watching there's a woman playing Doctor Who now. It's no, I'm watching the Doctor.
Yeah, this is the Doctor. And the moment where she comes out and says, I'm the Doctor, I squeaked so hard.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, my absolute favourite moment of her so far, and I want to steal Mr. TARDIS's thing and pick out the Doctor's best moment of the week. I can do that, right? He's still not finished series 7 after 5 years.
Yes, we do that.
But I absolutely love the scene where she's putting together the sonic screwdriver. Not just because she was doing the whole she was making it from scratch out of scrap metal that she found in a warehouse in Sheffield.
In a cave with a box of scraps.
But it's that just shows off her ingenuity, and I remember looking at the trailer, seeing all these scenes of her doing all this stuff with machinery parts, putting something together, and I thought that's actually kind of cool. We've got a sort of handy Doctor.
And that's great.
But at the same time, the bit of dialogue before it where she's talking to Graham and Grace about having recently regenerated, it's an interesting conversation about regeneration that we've never really had. How does it actually feel?
We always get the impression that regeneration is
some traumatic process where you're dead and that's it.
And that's partially. We've got that. We've had that impression throughout the series, but it was mostly solidified during 10's regeneration. But this was a conversation
10, 11, and 12.
and 12 and 11. But we've never really had this proper conversation before. That line, there's a moment where you're sure you're about to die, and then you're born. I mean, obviously, none of us are ever going to go through the actual process unless there's something you're not telling us.
Get it.
But that is very much how regeneration sounds to us.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point to emphasise, because that's something the show's been really going overboard on since Tennant.
We've been complaining about the overuse of
we've been complaining
fake out regenerations.
Like the doctor keeps going on about, oh, I'm gonna die, but we keep missing out the fact you're still gonna live though. Like you're just gonna be reborn. It's not death, it's reincarnation.
10 had an excuse because, even as 11 himself points out, he kind of had vanity issues, but they kept it going.
Yeah, and I mean, like, within the narrative, I guess it made sense because we were also worried about Tennant leaving, but I think the problem is he never really came to terms with that. Even after doing the very doctorly thing of saving Wilf.
Speaking of Wilf, Bradley Walsh, his character Graham reminds me of him quite a lot. It's the friendly, nice guy with the sense of humour. Like he's
sort of a bit out of his depth.
He's the down to earth one.
He's just sort of like, well, we don't get aliens in Sheffield.
if there's something that I could say about, I mean, I loved all four companions, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
If there's something I can say, I can see happening going forward, it's that I get the impression that Ryan will be the one absolutely in, getting into the whole time travel and venturing and absolutely getting into it.
He seems like the total nerd of the group.
And Graham will be the one who's trying to be very down to earth and trying to be very, what's going on? There's aliens. I'm not used to this.
He's going to be the one asking the most questions, I imagine.
And Yaz, I get the impression, is going to be the mediator, the one with the foot in both worlds.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Yeah, being. I know she's more of a traffic cop. I do just want to see her beat the snot out of an alien or something.
Yaz didn't get that much to do in this episode.
I'm not going to criticise it that much for that. I mean, This is only episode 1, and we've got 5 characters to deal with.
But I did really...
Chief among them being the Doctor.
I did really like all of these companions.
Yeah, they're all likeable. And I do like, we're sort of getting like a family dynamic this series.
Yeah.
Like, especially, obviously we've got like Graham and Ryan being actual relatives, but... Yaz being, a childhood friend of Ryan's, and a Doctor sort of... She's going to... I imagine she's probably going to be, like, less of a mum, more of a big sister.
Probably. On the note of the show doing new things and having new, interesting ideas, Ryan has dyspraxia.
Which I'm taking the fall for this one, because I've got dyspraxia, and albeit it's a milder form, like, I can ride a bike. I've been riding a bike for a long time. But, Ryan having dyspraxia is quite... It's quite a big thing for me because as I've gotten older, I've known more people with it, and better or worse than me. But also, unlike stuff like with dyslexia or autism or other sort of conditions like that, you don't really see that in TV or film. Like dyspraxia is a relatively unknown one, despite it being a lot more common than I thought it to be. Like, of course, you get like we've had both. Like dyslexia and autism in Doctor Who a few times, but nobody ever really talks about dyspraxia in any media. Like I remember googling a little while ago, like there are no actual well-known dyspraxic characters, or at least nobody really knows about, and so people are just sort of left with headcanons like, oh, maybe Homer Simpson is one, or maybe Mr. Bean, and that's only because they're both sort of slapsticky characters, which is not a great reflection, but also it's the equivalent. It's the same gripe that people have with The Big Bang Theory for Sheldon Cooper, where they're taking sort of a bit more of the negative traits than just the general traits, and also Harry Potter as well. People are sort of associating Harry Potter with dyspraxia because Daniel Radcliffe's got it, but we don't actually have a actual dyspraxic character, and that's something that's. I think with Ryan, that's going to be really cool for a lot of kids who do have it. Like it's not so much relevant to me anymore because I've sort of managed to get a good hold of it. But, you know, for a lot of kids who are struggling to ride bikes or, you know, climb, like, I do like the small detail of, like, when he's climbing the crane, like, he does slip off a little. But for kids growing up watching the show, like, they're gonna have a bit of a role model like that. And it sort of goes back to, like, it's not just Jodie representing people. Everyone's sort of representing people in this series, aren't they?
Representation is important, kids.
Yeah, and I think also, like, while we're on that, I think one thing I really do admire about what they've done with Jodie in this is that they haven't really hammered on the point that she's a woman now, or the Doctor's a woman now. Rather, I'm fairly sure Jodie's always been a woman. I think that's how that works. But, like, there's like 2 throwaway lines in there, like, you know, oh, I'm a woman now, does it suit me? Or, it's been a while since I bought women's clothes, which, okay, it's not because, like, there are unknown regeneration. It's totally because the Doctor's probably cross-dressed at some point. Pertwee cross-dressed in one episode.
Pertwee cross-dressed very famously in that one episode, and we've never let anybody forget it. So that's what he's probably referring to.
I just love that exchange with him and Mike when he finds him. It was like, if you say one word, I like your handbag. Do you? Smack.
Have we mentioned we love this show?
I miss John. But yeah, but they haven't really hammered the point in, like, oh, the Doctor's a woman now, but
Because they don't need to.
Because they don't need to, and we can just get on with it. It's what I enjoyed about the Wonder Woman movie last year, where they didn't hammer too much on the point, oh, now we've got a female in the superhero universe now. No, they just got on with it and told their story.
It's important to recognise when women are in these positions, because historically women have had fewer opportunities than men, and even though we're doing better now, it's not entirely finished, but constantly bringing it up and making a constant point of it and just hammering it in every single time is not the point, because the point of the whole idea is to show that it's not different or unique or special that a woman can do these things, that women can do whatever the hell you like.
When you come to edit this, can you put the Sonic Boom clip of Knuckles?
Yes.
You know, Amy, anytime someone calls attention to the breaking of gender rules, it ultimately undermines the concept of gender equality by implying that this is an exception and not the status quo. What? Just because I'm a meathead doesn't mean I'm not a feminist.
I think he demonstrates that point better than we can. That's just sad.
I was quoting him pretty verbatim there. We're nerds.
But yeah, like, and also, it's also in the cast and crew. The crew as well. Like, you know, we've got the first people of colour writing for the show.
Yeah, no.
Ever, which I when I found out, I was like, no, maybe.
On TV,
yeah.
on TV certainly.
I don't know about Big Finish.
I think the books and Big Finish, I think they have, but I'm not 100% on that. But
that just surprised me.
Same. I can get why for Classic Who it wasn't okay, but it was still the 60s through the 80s, which wasn't a good time to be anything but a straight white man.
Yeah.
But
as much as Doctor Who likes to preach all inclusiveness,
it was still made in the 60s through 80s. Anyway, we went to
that's the sexism that you were supposed to be talking about in Twice Upon a Time, Moff.
And we talked about that enough last time. But it surprised me to know that in New Who that was a thing, but it's getting fixed, and I like that.
Yeah, I mean, people will cry tokenism, but sod off. If they write a decent episode, I'm not going to care.
People are idiots.
Yeah. We haven't actually talked about the plot. So the plot was, I know we've talked about pretty much like everything but the plot.
The plot was serviceable.
Yeah, I think they just sort of needed to do like it was very much a sort of Sherlock Holmesy kind of story.
The plot wasn't important so much as it was a vehicle to introduce all these characters, and it did that very.
But at the same time, it did hook me in quite a bit because
Tim Shaw is a pretty intimidating villain.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I know his name is Tim Shah, and I'm apparently the only person who can actually pronounce that.
I did have to double check the subtitles just to make sure, like, okay, they're definitely making a joke out of the fact she misheard his name.
I mean, he was credited as Tim Shaw in the credits.
Which is brilliant. I just love... Like it wasn't. I love the fact it wasn't even like the Doctor messing with him. Like you probably would have seen with like it was just generally mishearing him.
Which you could imagine. He was a pretty intimidating villain, even if the teeth thing kind of didn't go anywhere after they made a big deal out of it.
That was always... Funnily enough, whenever I talk to people about this episode, like at work or with friends, like the first thing that comes up is the teeth thing was a bit weird. Like we've officially gotten over the gender change, and we're just like, that sticking teeth in your face, that's a bit weird, even for an alien, isn't it?
I mean, the teeth thing would have been a really good thing if it had been important to the plot. Like he'd been like, I don't know, he was using those to actually track his trophy because these are the people who have been in contact with it, and we're trying to find out what they all have in common or something. But the fact that he just sticks them in his face just kind of
or even
pointless.
if it was just like. Even if he was using it as trophies, I would have just accepted if he made like a necklace of teeth, like hunters actually do.
Yeah, I mean, my problem with Lester sticking them in his face is a bit weird because they're aliens. They're weird. Yeah. But my problem is that it had zero effect on the overall plot after they made a big deal out of it.
It was just a question for the sake of a question. And it's like while I did enjoy the fact that I had no idea how all this stuff with the tentacle monster and the big onion looking egg thing and Tim Shaw running around to nicking people's teeth in, like, while I did enjoy not knowing how this was going to play out
and how it did all fit together quite nicely in the end.
Which is very refreshing because, like, after so many years of Moffat, like, he does cold opens and then you can just sort of piece together, okay, I've seen this before, I know how this is going to end.
Yeah, I would have had less of a problem with the teeth if they just kind of brought it up. Oh, he took a tooth. That's weird, and just kind of left it because they made a very big deal out of it, made it seem very integral to the episode, and then didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, it's like another criticism I keep hearing about the episode from less from people I talk to, but more what I see online with some of the people who sort of reviewed it is like, well, again, while I did like not knowing what was going to happen, that every other line was sort of a question. It's like, but how is this happening? Or what does this mean now?
I'm less of a critic of that because I'm steeped in Big Finish, which being an audio medium, you've kind of got to ask a lot of questions and describe what's going on a lot.
Yeah, so in Big Finish they do that rather naturally.
Yes,
like they'll just sort of look at something and go, oh, "It's a big scary monster thing," or. You know, like it sounds natural the way they do it in Big Finish, but here it's just like, right, that's another question to add to the massive list we're making.
And I did get that, but I found it satisfying because they did genuinely answer all the questions, and they didn't take an entire season to do it,
or multiple.
True.
Yeah. But it didn't bother me all that much. I mean, we still got our answers by the end.
And while we're on the complaining train, this is basically my last criticism of the episode. Like, it was good enough that I only have 2 or 3 criticisms, but it is my big one. I felt it was unnecessary to kill off Grace at the end. I'm a big supporter of the idea that you should only kill off a character if you can tell more stories with their death than with them being alive. Her being alive, I feel, would have made more sense. Because
like if she stuck around a bit longer in the series, and then if they killed her off,
possibly that. But even like, you know, even if they had her in the hospital in the last scene, therefore, which is why she wasn't teleported away to outer space, it would give Graham something to come home to. Because as it stands, it kind of. It doesn't feel like her death achieved anything.
Yeah, and I imagine by the time we sort of look back on the series, like we're not really gonna remember Grace all that
Probably
well.
not.
Like,
if she turns
her
up
death,
as like
her death was a shock, but
if she turns up as a ghost or they cause some kind of temporal anomaly and she gets brought back or whatever, I'll be okay with that. But as it stands, her death was pointless, and considering how likable a character she was, I don't feel that a pointless death was right for her.
I feel like they're going to do the Pete Tyler thing where like they occasionally bring her back, I should say. Bring her back for various plots, like for time travel reasons, or maybe like in Class where it's just like an alien messing with somebody trying to feed off their emotions or something, or even a flashback. But
possibly, but I feel it would have worked better if she was alive, incapacitated, and Graham wanted to get back home to her.
And then that gives like the rest of the series, well, or at least episode 2, more weight as they do have a reason to get back to Earth.
Yeah.
Apart from suffocating. Okay, How great was that cliffhanger?
I know, right?
That is
Criticism over, guys.
That is pure Hartnell era cliffhanger.
It's beautiful.
Like at the end of like I can just imagine the same thing happening. Like the Doctor's pottering around in the TARDIS and then hits a switch, and then suddenly him, Ian, Barbara, and Susan are floating out in the vacuum of space.
I mean, remember what happened in was it the cliffhanger of part 1 of The Mind Robber, where the TARDIS breaks apart.
The TARDIS explodes. Jamie and Zoe are clinging onto the thing, and
and
the
they're just
Doctor's
left
floating
drifting through the seeming remains of this shattered TARDIS. That's great.
That whole episode was trippy, and I love it.
It was. But this cliffhanger is just, how on earth are they going to get out of this?
Yeah, and I do love the irony of back in Trial of a Time Lord, like the original ending was to have the Doctor and the Valeyard sort of get sucked into the vacuum of space and fight to the death. But because there was a risk of the show getting cancelled, like they didn't want to hand Michael Grade a loaded gun.
And also the
but here, like everyone's going, oh my gosh, what is going to happen now? I can't wait to see how they get out of this one.
It's quite similar to the cliffhanger at the end of Doom Coalition 3, where, spoilers, I'm not going to reveal why, but the Doctor and his companions basically get launched into a complete void in a spaceship that has no way back. And the next episode is them trying to find a way back, and it's great.
Yeah,
Ship in a Bottle was a fantastic episode.
it was a bottle episode.
Ha!
I mean, just to point that out.
But this cliffhanger was great.
Yeah, and also very very quickly on the topic of Grace, because I got onto the cliffhanger a bit early, but I don't know if you saw this when the cast was announced like ages ago, but I remember people saying that like the woman who played Grace, I'm afraid I don't know the actress's name, she was going to turn out to be Missy. I was like, no, that's not going to happen.
Well, I mean,
by the end of this episode, like, yep, that's definitely not Missy.
Well, I mean, we do know full well that every female character is the Ronnie until proven otherwise. But I somehow don't see that happening, especially considering Chibnall has said he's not bringing any villains back for this series.
Yeah, I'm still gonna call shenanigans on that until I'm betting the Daleks will show up in some capacity.
I'm thinking they're going to show up at Christmas.
At Christmas, or maybe like a mid-credits scene showing like, oh, they're going to be back next series, or maybe even just like they arrive somewhere that's been part of a Dalek war, and they show like a Dalek dome somewhere, and there's your Dalek for this series.
Yeah, because they have to use them every series, otherwise they lose the rights to use them.
Allegedly, like there's been debate about that. And I'm to be honest, I'm quite looking forward to the fact that, apart from the Daleks, I'm quite looking forward to the fact that it's going to be virtually a standalone series.
Which I like. It gives us opportunities for new ideas.
Yeah, I've seen people are turned off by the idea of, oh, there's no River or Missy. Well, I'm not going to watch it. It's like,
okay,
fine, okay. I'm fed up of River. I'm fed up of Missy.
And even if you're not fed up with those, Big Finish are doing spin-offs with both of those, so
Yeah.
go give them more money.
I mean, even if the Master does come back, it's not going to be Missy.
No.
It might be a different Missy, but it's certainly not going to be Missy.
No, he's not going to be Michelle Gomez.
And also, we've had River's done now.
River's done.
We don't need more River unless we do an anniversary special. I don't see any reason to bring her back again.
I wouldn't be opposed to seeing River meeting future Doctors, but we don't need more big long story arcs involving her anymore.
Yeah, I've had quite enough of her meeting more Doctors through the Big Finish series. Where like, can we just do one series where she doesn't meet? Well, actually, no. The next series is going to be just her meeting the Master, which I'm actually kind of excited for. Like, she's going to meet 4 Masters and no Doctors.
But I mean, the series after that is her apparently going to be her going back and visiting all sorts of old stories before the Doctor got involved. Which, whatever, irrelevant. Like, I'd be okay with her meeting future Doctors, but I'm tired of her meeting classic Doctors at this point. And again, that's completely off topic.
Yeah. Anyway, the woman who fell to Earth. Sorry. I also have to mention, like, it looks great.
It does.
Like the way, like, I don't know anything about filmmaking, so forgive me here. But like, are they shooting on different cameras now? Because I don't know, like the way it, like, not just like the quality in the CG, but also like the way it's filmed, like the cinematography and the lighting, it just seems completely different.
I mean, they have a very entirely new crew, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's basically been it's sort of been a soft reboot of the show.
Yeah.
And I do like how it looks. The Woman Who Fell to Earth looked great.
It looked like, I know this was something that Moffat was always trying to shoot for with Series 7 onwards, but it did look sort of...
It had a very...
It had a very cinema sort of feel.
It did, yeah. Which is always a good thing. It always gives you a bigger sense of scale, a sense of grandness to it.
And it sort of felt, at the same time, it sort of felt at home on the BBC. Like it looked like a lot of other BBC dramas the way it was filmed.
God, we love this show.
Yeah. Also, I told you about this earlier in the week, but I found a review from, I can't remember what it was. Was it the Mail, I said?
Possibly.
Or the Sun? It was probably the Sun. But it got a 4 out of 5 from this one review of the Sun. And the reason it was a 4 and not a 5 was because it had an inciting incident on a public commuter train, which The Bodyguard also had. Therefore, this TV show had an inciting incident on a train. That series had an inciting incident on a train, and that's a sin.
It was The Mirror, wasn't it?
It might have been.
I think it was The Mirror.
Also, notice me, Jay.
Jay's never going to notice you.
He's noticed me in the comments.
And here we are, continuing to rip off our jokes from other more successful YouTubers.
I mean, he can talk about how he's got a terrible channel, but he's still got more subscribers than either of us put together.
Yeah, he does.
To be fair, he actually uploads.
Shots fired.
But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Jodie's Doctor progresses.
This series has really hit the ground running.
And I couldn't be happier.
I'm so excited.
I'm enjoying, over the last couple of years, I'm really enjoying Doctor Who again. Like from series 9 onwards, I've just been enjoying more and more.
I'm so excited for the rest of this series.
And I just can't hide it.
This episode was great, and it was a fantastic start to the new series, and we're excited. We like this plan. We're excited to be part of it.
Yay! Also, Salad Guy.
All hail Salad Guy! If there's one more criticism I have about the show, is that they killed off Salad Guy.
I think you should have spin-offs in every Doctor Who medium. That includes Big Finish, comics, the novels, the Virgin New Adventures, and Big Finish again.
Now, I reckon they should bring him back every episode, have him throw salad at the latest alien, and then die again, like Cabbage Guy in Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Or can we just have him as like the Kenny of Doctor Who?
Just
like,
turns up.
Oh my God! They killed Salad Guy.
Just turns up, drunkenly stumbling around, throws kebab at the alien, and then immediately dies. And just happened.
Honestly,
that happened in every episode.
Honestly, I remember I said this out loud while watching the episode with my family. It's like, there's a drunk man throwing salad at an alien. Just when I thought that Doctor Who couldn't get any more British. Please turn out to be the Rani.
What's funny is that even as a regeneration story, the story wasn't that weird.
Yeah.
I mean, the very first regeneration story, the first 15 minutes was just two playing a recorder and completely failing to answer a single question.
The Doctor was in Spearhead from Space, the Doctor was stealing from hospitals. Whilst also showering and apparently having a tattoo. That's interesting.
6 strangled Perry, but we don't talk about that.
We definitely don't talk about that.
8 completely lost his memory for like a few days.
The 4th Doctor is the 4th Doctor.
The 4th Doctor.
The 10th Doctor had a sword fight in his pyjamas.
This isn't
whilst citing Arthur Dent of all people.
And quoting the Lion King.
Yeah.
This isn't that weird as a regeneration story, guys.
And 12 stole from a tramp who was married to Sarah Jane.
Apparently. All we had in this was a tentacle hentai monster.
You ruined it. You ruined it, and I'm leaving.
And that's the end of the discussion.
Yeah, let's end it here before it gets too weird. You know where this is going.
This episode was great. It was fantastic. We love it, and we can't wait to see more. We will see you next week for the Ghost Monument.
Hopefully.
Until then, take care.